Admiral Jessica Carter had learned long ago that the most dangerous moments in history often began in silence. Standing on the bridge of the U.S. Nightingale, she watched the massive alien vessels emerge from the depths of space, their crystalline hulls refracting starlight like abstract prisms. Her tiny destroyer, a mere fraction of their size, maintained its position at the edge of the Kuiper Belt. Sensor analysis complete. Admiral, Lieutenant Sarah Martinez reported, her voice steady despite the tension. The smallest of their vessels masses approximately 30 million tons. Their flagship. She paused, double-checking the readings. Nearly 100 million tons. Carter nodded, keeping her expression neutral. The bridge crew watched the holographic display as 5 more Cathar dreadnoughts dropped out of faster-than-light travel, their massive forms dwarfing the human defense fleet. To an untrained eye, it might have looked like dragons facing sparrows. "Ma'am, they're broadcasting on all frequencies," Communications Officer David Chen announced. "Text and audio, translated to English." "Put it through," Carter ordered, straightening her uniform. The message that filled the bridge dripped with condescension. "Greetings, primitive vessels of Earth." The alien transmission began, each word carefully enunciated as if speaking to children. "I am High Commander Vexthal of the glorious Cathar Dominion. We have observed your crude attempts at space travel and have come to offer you protection." Carter caught her XO, Commander James Peterson, rolling his eyes. They'd both attended enough first contact simulations to recognize a superiority complex when they saw one. "Your ships are remarkably small," Vexthal continued, his translated voice carrying notes of what might have been pity. "Their design suggests a species that has yet to master basic energy manipulation. We offer you the opportunity to submit to our benevolent rule. In exchange, we will shield you from the many dangers that lurk in the void." The bridge remained silent. Carter took a moment to study the alien flagship through the main viewport. Its crystal lattice hull structure was impressive. She had to admit, the entire vessel pulsed with what their sensors identified as quantum field generators. The Cathar had clearly invested heavily in energy-based technology, believing bigger and flashier meant better. "Officer Chen," Carter said quietly, "please transmit Protocol Omega authentication code to Luna Command." "Encrypted channel." "Yes, Mom." Chen's fingers moved across his console, sending the predetermined signal that would set countless hidden wheels in motion. Carter allowed herself a small smile. The Cathar's arrogance was expected. Human intelligence had studied similar species for decades. They all followed the same technological path, pursuing energy weapons and massive ships, never considering alternatives. It made them predictable. "High Commander Vexthal," Carter responded, injecting just the right amount of awe and nervousness into her voice. "I am Admiral Jessica Carter of the Earth Defense Fleet. Your vessels are indeed impressive. We would be honored to discuss your offer of protection." Through the quantum comm display, she could see Vexthal's alien features arrange themselves into what their xenologists had identified as a smile of superiority. Behind him, his bridge crew moved with the practiced efficiency of those who had never known true defeat. "A wise choice, Admiral," Vexthal responded. "We will board your vessel to begin discussion of terms." "Of course, High Commander. However, our protocols require any diplomatic meetings to take place at our lunar facility. We would be honored to escort your shuttle there." As she spoke, Carter's fingers tapped out a silent command on her chair's integrated console. Throughout the solar system, automated systems acknowledged her signal. Orbital platforms adjusted their trajectories by millimeters. Sensor buoys masked as debris continued their passive scans of the Cathar fleet, mapping every frequency, every shield harmonic, every structural stress point. "Very well," Vexthal agreed, clearly amused by what he saw as primitive caution. "We will follow your customs." As the communication ended, Commander Peterson stepped closer to Carter's chair. "They're not even running active scans of our system," he whispered. They don't consider us worth the energy expenditure." Carter nodded, watching the massive alien ships adjust their position to follow her tiny destroyer toward Luna. Everything was proceeding exactly as the war games had predicted. Humanity had spent 50 years preparing for this moment, carefully crafting an image of technological inferiority. The trap was set. Now all they had to do was wait for the Scyther to spring it. The Scyther Military Council chamber erupted in crystalline chimes of laughter as Chief Technology Analyst Sexfor presented his findings on human spacecraft design. The vast circular room, carved from a single piece of quantum crystal, amplified every sound of amusement from the gathered leadership. "Observe," Sexfor projected a hologram of the U.S. Nightingale. Their largest combat vessel masses barely 2 million tons. The hull is composed of primitive metallic alloys. Most amusingly, they still rely on nuclear fission for auxiliary power. High Commander Vexthal reclined in his command throne, mandibles twitching with satisfaction. And their primary weapon systems, pathetic chemical propellants and basic fusion warheads. They haven't even mastered basic quantum shielding. Their armor would barely withstand a civilian mining laser. Sexfor manipulated the hologram, highlighting various points of the human vessel. They cluster their command centers near the outer hull, a clear sign of a species that evolved without proper understanding of space combat. Meanwhile, in the depths of Luna Command, Dr. Michael Anderson watched the entire exchange through quantum surveillance systems hidden within the diplomatic gifts they'd presented to the Scyther. He took another sip of coffee, making notes as the aliens continued their assessment. "Signal clarity is excellent," he commented to his team. "They haven't detected any of our monitoring devices. Keep recording." On his primary screen, the Alien Council continued their strategic assessment. A military commander was speaking now, mandibles clicking with derision as he analyzed human fleet movements. "Their formation patterns suggest no grasp of four-dimensional combat," the alien commander declared. "They maintain rigid structures, like prey animals clustering for protection. This species clearly developed in a sheltered system, never facing true stellar warfare." Anderson's colleague, Dr. Rebecca Martinez, pulled up their latest sensor data on the Scyther ships. "They're still running their shields at maximum visibility," she noted. "Their entire culture seems built around displaying power rather than applying it efficiently." "Pride comes before the fall," Anderson murmured, reviewing the energy signatures. "They're so focused on showing off their technology that they're bleeding power like a broken reactor." The surveillance feed showed Vexthal rising from his throne, addressing his council. "The human diplomatic party arrives tomorrow. Their lunar facility is primitive, but adequately shielded against radiation. We will honor their quaint customs, demonstrate our overwhelming technological superiority, and add their resources to the Dominion." Anderson switched his display to the hidden construction base throughout the asteroid belt. Thousands of autonomous units continued their work, assembling components that the Scyther's energy-focused sensors dismissed as mining equipment. Humanity had learned long ago that the best place to hide was in plain sight. "They're planning to offer us protection in exchange for 90% of our mineral production," Martinez read from the translated discussions. "They think we'll be grateful for the opportunity." Anderson nodded, sending a coded burst transmission to the defense fleet. Typical Class 7 civilization development pattern. They discovered quantum manipulation before mastering basic physics, like giving fusion power to medieval knights. All flash, no fundamentals. The Scyther Council chamber had shifted to reviewing human scientific publications. They'd accessed the public research networks, finding exactly what humanity wanted them to find. Carefully crafted papers showing promising but limited understanding of advanced physics. "Look at this primitive attempt to explain quantum field theory." Sexfor highlighted Dr. Anderson's own published work. "They're centuries from understanding basic power generation. Their nuclear engines are practically steam-driven compared to our quantum cores." Anderson allowed himself a small smile as he watched his own research being ridiculed. The papers were real enough. They just described technology humanity had mastered 50 years ago. Every limitation and theoretical barrier had been carefully written to draw exactly these conclusions. "Sir," one of his junior researchers called out, "the Skithair fleet is repositioning. They're moving 90% of their ships out of the system, leaving only their diplomatic escorts." "Of course they are," Anderson replied, sending another coded burst to Admiral Carter. "Why waste resources guarding against primitives? Log it as Phase 2 complete. Inform Special Operations that they're cleared to proceed with Phase 3. He took a final look at the Alien Council, still laughing at humanity's perceived weakness. In all their advanced calculations, they'd forgotten the most fundamental rule of warfare: appearances can be deceiving. Lieutenant James "Lucky" Martinez gripped the arms of his command chair as the U.S. Peregrine executed another clumsy, evasive maneuver. His ship, along with the rest of Battle Group 7, appeared to flee in disarray from the Skithair assault force approaching New Denver colony. Engineering reports minor damage to the port nacelle. His XO, Lieutenant Sarah Cooper, announced with carefully crafted nervousness. "We're venting atmosphere from decks 3 through 5. Martinez nodded, watching the tactical display as the massive crystalline ships pursued his squadron. The controlled chaos unfolding before him was the result of thousands of hours of practice. Each stumble, every apparent mistake, had been calculated to the millisecond. New Denver colony reports civilian evacuation at 60%. Communications Officer John Reynolds reported. The Skithair are broadcasting their usual demands for surrender. Through the main viewport, Martinez watched the colony's orbital platforms powering down, their lights dimming in a seemingly desperate bid to avoid detection. The Skithair tactical eye would interpret this as primitive stealth technology, never suspecting the true capabilities hidden within those outdated defense stations. "Maintain current vector," Martinez ordered. "Let's show our alien friends just how poorly human ships handle under pressure." The bridge crew executed their roles perfectly, allowing small errors to creep into their formation. The destroyer lagged slightly behind. A cruiser's engine flared erratically. Their electronic warfare suite broadcasted the panicked communications expected from an overwhelmed defensive force. "The Skithair flagship is moving into optimal firing position," Tactical Officer Emma Rodriguez reported, her voice carrying just the right note of fear. "Their weapon systems are charging." The first salvo of energy weapons lanced out from the alien vessels, their crystalline focusing arrays creating beautiful but deliberately inefficient patterns in space. The human ships struggled to evade, taking glancing hits that their adversaries' sensors would register as significantly more damaging than they actually were. "Send the distress call," Martinez commanded. "Let's make sure they think we're completely outmatched." The encrypted message hidden within that distress call would trigger the next phase of Operation Webweaver. Throughout the New Denver system, what the Skithair had dismissed as inactive satellites and abandoned mining equipment began their subtle repositioning. "Sir," Cooper whispered, "the enemy fleet is pursuing exactly as predicted. Their formation suggests they're following standard pattern Omega-7. Martinez allowed himself a small smile. The Skithair's tactical doctrine was as rigid as their crystalline ships. All power, no subtlety. They were so convinced of their superiority that they couldn't conceive of their primitive opponents having any real strategy. Multiple hull breaches reported on the Saratoga, Reynolds announced, playing his part in the carefully orchestrated performance. The Saratoga's apparent damage was actually a controlled release of debris and gas, creating a convoy of navigation hazards that would subtly influence the Skithair fleet's pursuit trajectory. The alien vessels pressed their advantage, their massive forms casting crystalline shadows across the stars. Their energy weapons continued to fire, each shot seemingly more devastating than the last. To their sensors, the human fleet appeared to be coming apart at the seams. "Enemy flagship is broadcasting," Reynolds reported. "They're offering to spare the colony if we surrender our ships for technological uplift and integration into their fleet." "Send no response," Martinez ordered. "Let them think our communications are damaged." Status of Operation Weatweaver. All autonomous units in position. Rodriguez confirmed quietly. The Scyther fleet is now fully committed to the pursuit vector. Their rear guard has moved beyond their designated safety threshold. Martinez opened a secure channel to Admiral Carter's task force, waiting in the shadow of New Denver's largest moon. Package is wrapped, ma'am. The web is ready. Well done, Lieutenant. Carter's voice came back, cool and confident. Maintain your course. Let them think they've got us running scared for another 23 minutes. Then we'll show them why humanity stopped building bigger ships a century ago. As the Scyther fleet pressed forward, eager to claim their apparently easy victory, none of their advanced sensors detected the thousands of small objects moving into position around them. After all, why would a superior civilization worry about mere space debris? Commander Emily Iron Hand Reynolds watched the tactical display from her stealth platform, designated Shadow Point 7. The massive hologram showed the Scyther fleet, represented in red, pursuing the fleeing human ships through a cloud of what their sensors registered as inactive satellites and space debris. All Kingfisher platforms report ready, Lieutenant Michael Wong announced from his station. Targeting solutions locked. Reynolds nodded, her eyes fixed on the countdown timer. Years of preparation had led to this moment. The Scyther, in their arrogance, had committed their entire pursuit fleet into what they thought was a simple capture operation. Signal from Admiral Carter. Communications Officer Lisa Parker reported. Authorization code received. We are weapons-free. Reynolds straightened in her command chair. Around her, the abandoned mining platform's true nature revealed itself as weapon systems powered up throughout the structure. Similar transformations were happening across 1,000 pieces of overlooked debris in the New Denver system. Begin transmission to all Kingfisher platforms, Reynolds ordered. Execute pattern sunburst. The first indication the Scyther had that something was wrong came when their tactical officer detected a slight energy spike from a piece of debris they'd dismissed as an old communications satellite. By then, it was far too late. First wave, fire, Reynolds commanded. Across the battlefield, hundreds of tungsten rods, each massing 20 tons and accelerated to a fraction of light speed, launched simultaneously. The Scyther's energy shields, designed to deflect plasma and laser fire, might as well have been tissue paper against the sheer kinetic force. Multiple impacts confirmed, Wong reported, his voice steady as the tactical display showed the first crystalline ships shattering under the assault. Enemy shields attempting to adapt, ineffective against kinetic penetrators. The Scyther fleet erupted in chaos. Their formation, so perfect moments before, broke apart as ships tried to evade the unexpected attack. Their energy weapons lashed out at empty space, trying to target weapons platforms that had already moved to their next firing positions. Enemy flagship is attempting to coordinate a defense, Parker announced. They're realizing those abandoned mining lasers weren't for mining. Reynolds allowed herself a grim smile. The mining lasers were actually mass drivers, accelerating their projectiles through electromagnetic fields that the Scyther's energy-focused sensors had dismissed as background radiation. Second wave, execute, she ordered. Activate all Mockingbird platforms. What the Scyther had believed to be simple navigation buoys suddenly revealed their true purpose. Quantum field generators, synchronized across thousands of points in space, created a web of gravitational distortions. The alien ships found their carefully plotted escape vectors turned into death traps. Enemy vessels attempting emergency faster than light jumps, Wong reported. Mockingbird fields are disrupting their quantum cores. They're trapped in normal space. Through the command center's main viewport, Reynolds watched as the mighty crystalline ships were systematically torn apart by simple physics applied with devastating precision. No energy weapons, no exotic technology, just mass, velocity, and carefully planned trajectories. Signal from Lieutenant Martinez's task force, Parker called out. They're executing their turn. Operation Hammerfall is commencing. The fleeing human ships suddenly revealed their true nature. The hulls that the Sk'Thar had dismissed as primitive opened like blooming flowers, extending previously hidden weapon systems. The small vessels that the aliens had chased so confidently now moved with impossible precision, their crude nuclear engines proving to be merely a cover for far more advanced propulsion systems. Enemy flagship is broadcasting on all frequencies, Parker reported. They're demanding to know what's happening. Send them the prepared response, Reynolds ordered. Let them understand exactly what they've walked into. Across all frequencies, in perfect Sk'Thar language, the human response broadcast. You mistook patience for weakness. You confused preparation for primitiveness. This is humanity's response to your offer of protection. We decline. The tactical display showed more red icons vanishing as the trap closed completely. The Sk'Thar's mighty dreadnoughts, with all their quantum fields and energy weapons, were being systematically destroyed by what they had dismissed as space junk. Admiral Carter signals the next phase is ready, Parker announced. Shall we show them what else we've been hiding? Reynolds nodded, entering the command codes that would reveal the next layer of humanity's carefully planned response. Let's teach them why size isn't everything in warfare. Captain Thomas "Ghost" Walker felt the familiar surge of acceleration as the U.S. Shadowhawk disengaged its masking field. Around his vessel, the other ships of Wolfpack Squadron revealed their true forms, Phantom-class destroyers dropping their carefully maintained disguises like shed snake skins. Engineering reports quantum drive at full capacity. Lieutenant Sarah Brooks announced from her station. Gravitational compensation fields holding steady at maximum output. Through the bridge viewport, Walker watched as his squadron's primitive hulls reconfigured themselves. Panels shifted, revealing banks of weapons that no Sk'Thar sensor had detected. The aliens had been so focused on scanning for energy signatures that they completely missed the metamaterial composites hiding in plain sight. Multiple distress calls from the enemy fleet. Communications Officer Robert Chen reported, a hint of satisfaction in his voice. Their tactical network is in complete disarray. They're trying to understand how we're moving like this. On the main tactical display, the Wolfpack's destroyers executed maneuvers that should have turned their crews to paste. The Sk'Thar watched in horror as human ships pulled turns and accelerations that violated everything they thought they knew about inertial limitations. Incoming transmission from the enemy flagship, Chen announced. High Commander Vexthal is demanding to speak with you personally, sir. Walker nodded, straightening in his command chair. Put him through. The holographic display flickered to life, showing the Sk'Thar commander's face contorted in what Xenop psychology had identified as a mixture of rage and fear. What trickery is this? Vexthal demanded. Your ships were primitive. We scanned them ourselves. You scanned exactly what we wanted you to scan, Walker replied calmly. You saw nuclear engines because we showed you nuclear engines. You saw weak hulls because that's what we wanted you to see. Would you like to know what you're actually facing? Without waiting for a response, Walker nodded to his tactical officer. The Shadowhawk's full sensor profile broadcast to the Sk'Thar flagship, showing them the true nature of their opponents. The tiny destroyer was actually a densely packed marvel of engineering, its hull composed of layers of smart materials that could alter their properties on demand. Impossible, one of Vexthal's officers shouted off-screen. Their power readings are higher than our dreadnoughts, but their ships are so small. Size isn't everything, Walker responded, allowing himself a small smile. You built bigger ships because you could. We built smaller ships because we had to. Every cubic meter of our vessels serves multiple purposes. While you were mastering quantum fields, we were perfecting efficiency. The tactical display showed the rest of the human fleet revealing their true capabilities. What the Sk'Thar had dismissed as engine limitations turned out to be carefully controlled power signatures. The seemingly random debris field around their ships proved to be a complex network of quantum field projectors, creating a web of enhanced maneuverability zones that only human ships knew how to navigate. Wolfpack Squadron, execute battle pattern Delta, Walker commanded. Show them why we're called hunters. His ships moved in perfect coordination, their true engines pushing them to accelerations that the Sk'Thar had thought physically impossible. The alien vessels, massive and powerful as they were, couldn't match the agility of ships designed by a species that had learned to fight in the crowded inner solar system. Multiple quantum core breaches detected in enemy vessels. Tactical Officer Jennifer Hayes reported. Their shields are failing. They never designed them to handle sustained gravitational stress. Walker watched as the mighty crystalline ships began to break apart, their own mass becoming their greatest weakness as human vessels danced through their formation, striking with surgical precision at structural weak points that had been identified months ago. "Sir," Chen called out, "Admiral Carter is signaling. The Sk'Thar reinforcement fleet has been detected at the system's edge. They're accelerating to combat speed." "Good," Walker replied, entering commands into his tactical console. "Time to show them what else we've been hiding. Signal all Phantom-class vessels. Disengage mass limitations. Let's show the Dominion why humanity chose to build our ships small and dense instead of large and hollow." As the Shadowhawk systems released their final restrictions, Walker allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The real dance was about to begin. Colonel Alexandra Fox Mitchell stood in Luna Command's Strategic Operations Center, surrounded by holographic displays showing the unfolding battle. Her special operations team had spent years preparing for this moment, meticulously crafting the illusion of human technological inferiority. Now it was time to reveal just how thoroughly they had studied their adversaries. "Begin full-spectrum broadcast," she ordered, nodding to her communications team. "Let's show them exactly what they've walked into." Across all frequencies, in every format the Sk'Thar could receive, humanity's message began to transmit. The data stream included everything. Detailed scans of crystalline hull stress points, comprehensive analysis of quantum shield harmonics, and precise calculations showing how human weapons had been specifically designed to exploit Sk'Thar weaknesses. "Their tactical networks are trying to adapt," Lieutenant James Harrison reported from his station. "But they can't change their fundamental design philosophy fast enough. Every countermeasure they attempt was predicted and accounted for months ago." Mitchell watched as the massive holographic display showed human forces systematically dismantling the Sk'Thar fleet. The aliens had built their entire military doctrine around the assumption that technological supremacy meant victory. They never considered that their very advantages could become weaknesses when properly understood and countered. "Ma'am," Communications Officer Elizabeth Palmer called out, "we're picking up significant command and control disruption in the enemy fleet. They're realizing that every tactical doctrine they're trying to implement was compromised before they even entered the system." The central display showed a Sk'Thar dreadnought attempting to reconfigure its quantum shields. The massive vessel's crystalline hull gleamed as it deployed what they considered their most advanced defensive protocols. Mitchell allowed herself a small smile as she watched the futile effort. "Transmit Phase 3 tactical data to all human fleet elements," she commanded. "Let them see exactly how we've been collecting intelligence on their capabilities for the past 6 months." The data stream revealed the true extent of humanity's preparation. Every diplomatic meeting, every trade discussion, every cultural exchange had been an opportunity to study Sk'Thar technology. What the aliens had interpreted as primitive human sensors were actually incredibly sophisticated analysis devices, building a comprehensive database of their weaknesses. "Enemy flagship is attempting to coordinate a new defense pattern," Harrison announced. "They're trying to adapt their formation to counter our kinetic weapons." "Too late," Mitchell responded, watching the battle unfold. "Send the next data packet. Show them why we let them think our ships were so small and weak." The tactical display highlighted the true nature of human vessel design. While the Sk'Thar had built their ships larger and larger, humanity had focused on efficiency and adaptability. Every cubic meter of a human warship served multiple purposes, their systems integrated in ways the aliens had never considered possible. "Their central command network is fragmenting," Palmer reported. We're detecting widespread communications failure across their fleet. They're attempting to purge their systems of what they think is human cyber warfare." Mitchell shook her head. "They still don't understand. We never needed to hack their networks. We just needed them to keep believing in their own superiority long enough to spring the trap." The holographic displays showed the full extent of humanity's strategic web. What the Scyther had dismissed as debris were actually components of the most sophisticated battlefield control system ever created. Every piece of supposed space junk was part of a vast network, turning the entire solar system into one interconnected weapons platform. "Colonel," Harrison called out urgently, "multiple quantum core fluctuations detected in enemy vessels. Their attempt to boost power to their shields is causing cascading failures across their fleet." As predicted, Mitchell confirmed. They never considered that their quantum field technology had fundamental limitations. They were so focused on power output that they never learned efficiency. She turned to face her team, the accumulated knowledge of years of patience and planning displayed around them. "Send the final message to their command network. Let them understand exactly what humanity has been doing while they thought we were playing catch-up." The message was simple but devastating. Detailed records of every Scyther ship that had entered human space, every scan they had taken, every demonstration of their superior technology. Each instance had been carefully orchestrated to convince them of human weakness while revealing their own vulnerabilities. Admiral William Steel Truth Harrison stood at the helm of the U.S. Valiant, watching as humanity's full capabilities unfolded across the battlefield. The massive holographic display showed the Scyther fleet in disarray, their mighty dreadnoughts falling prey to weapons and tactics they never imagined possible. "All battle groups report ready, Admiral," Commander Sarah Reynolds announced from her tactical station. "Dark matter containment fields are stable. Permission to unveil our final surprise." Harrison nodded, his expression grave. "Execute protocol endgame. Let's show them why we never needed bigger ships." Across the solar system, human vessels began their transformation. The primitive nuclear engines that had so amused the Scyther suddenly shifted configuration, revealing their true nature. Dark matter manipulation systems, technology the aliens had thought theoretically impossible, activated simultaneously. "Enemy flagship is broadcasting on all frequencies," Lieutenant David Cooper reported from communications. "High Commander Vexthal is. He's demanding an explanation." "Put him through," Harrison ordered, straightening his uniform. "They deserve to understand what they're facing." The holographic display flickered to life, showing Vexthal's face contorted with a mixture of rage and disbelief. "What sorcery is this?" the alien commander demanded. "How are your ships moving without standard propulsion? You assumed that because we used nuclear power, we hadn't mastered anything better," Harrison replied calmly. "The truth is, we perfected dark matter manipulation decades ago. We simply saw no need to show it off." The tactical display highlighted the true nature of human warship design. What the Scyther had dismissed as structural weaknesses were actually carefully designed metamaterial arrays, capable of bending spacetime itself. The small size of human vessels wasn't a limitation. It was a deliberate choice to maximize maneuverability in relativistic combat. "Multiple enemy vessels attempting emergency quantum jumps," Reynolds reported. "Their cores are failing under the gravitational stress. They never designed their ships to handle these kinds of forces." Harrison watched as the mighty crystalline ships began to crumble. Their quantum shields, designed to repel energy weapons, proved useless against the fundamental forces of physics being wielded with surgical precision by human vessels. "Signal from Luna Command," Cooper announced. "Colonel Mitchell's team has completed their final analysis. The Scyther fleet's structural integrity is failing exactly as predicted." The Valiant's own metamaterial hull rippled as it engaged its full combat capabilities. The vessel's true form emerged, not the weak, primitive warship the aliens had scanned, but a densely packed masterpiece of engineering that could manipulate gravity itself. "All ships, execute combat pattern Omega," Harrison commanded. Show them the difference between looking powerful and being powerful. Human vessels moved with impossible grace, their dark matter drives allowing them to ignore conventional limitations of inertia. The Scyther watched in horror as ships they had dismissed as primitive demonstrated maneuvers that violated everything they thought they knew about space combat. "Sir," Reynolds called out, "the enemy's reinforcement fleet has arrived. Their formation suggests they're preparing to deploy their planetary siege weapons." Harrison's expression remained calm. "Perfect. Now we can demonstrate why humanity chose to focus on efficiency rather than size. All ships, initiate gravitational convergence." The human fleet moved in perfect synchronization, their dark matter fields interlocking to create a web of distorted spacetime. The massive Scyther reinforcements found themselves trapped in a region where the very laws of physics had been rewritten. "Enemy vessels are reporting critical system failures," Cooper announced. "Their quantum cores can't handle the spatial distortions. They're begging for mercy." Harrison watched as the mighty alien armada, built on centuries of bigger is better philosophy, fell prey to humanity's mastery of fundamental forces. All their advanced technology, all their massive ships, meant nothing in the face of properly applied physics. "Signal to all ships," he ordered quietly. "Prepare for final phase. Let's show them why humanity spent centuries perfecting the art of war rather than just building bigger weapons." Major Rachel Olive Branch Cooper stood in the Grand Conference Chamber aboard the U.S. Peacekeeper, her diplomatic uniform pristine as she prepared to meet with the defeated Scyther leadership. The chamber's walls, seemingly constructed of ordinary metals, concealed enough firepower to vaporize a small moon. Not that they needed such displays of force anymore. "High Commander Vexthal's shuttle is approaching," Lieutenant Mark Anderson reported from his station. "Their energy signatures suggest they've powered down all weapons as requested. They're humble." Cooper nodded, reviewing the terms of surrender one final time. The document wasn't designed to humiliate or subjugate. That would have been too easy, too expected. Instead, it offered something the Scyther had never anticipated: partnership. "Their shuttle has docked," Anderson announced. Security teams report the delegation appears significantly subdued compared to their previous diplomatic visits. The chamber's doors slid open, revealing High Commander Vexthal and his staff. Gone was the towering arrogance that had marked their first meeting. The crystalline commanders moved with the careful deliberation of those who had learned respect the hard way. "Welcome aboard the Peacekeeper," Cooper greeted them, gesturing to the conference table. "Please, be seated. We have much to discuss about the future." Vexthal settled into his chair, his metallic voice carrying none of its former condescension. "You could destroy us all," he stated simply, "yet you offer terms. Why?" Cooper activated the holographic display, showing the full extent of human territory. "Because destruction was never our goal. Look carefully at this map. Notice anything interesting about our colony placements." The alien commanders studied the display, their expressions shifting as understanding dawned. Every human settlement, every defense platform, every apparent weakness in their territory had been carefully positioned. The entire human sphere of influence was one vast, interconnected defensive network. "You were never weak," one of Vexthal's advisors whispered. "Every settlement we thought vulnerable was a trap." "Precisely," Cooper confirmed. "We could have struck at any time during the past 50 years. Instead, we waited, watched, and hoped you would choose diplomacy over aggression. When you chose aggression, we demonstrated why that was a mistake. Now we're offering you a chance to learn from that mistake." She gestured, and the holographic display shifted to show technical specifications, human engineering principles, efficiency-focused design philosophies, and the fundamental physics that had allowed their smaller ships to overcome the Scyther's mighty dreadnoughts. "You're sharing your technology?" Vexthal asked, mandibles twitching in surprise. "We're sharing knowledge," Cooper corrected. "Your quantum field technology is impressive, but you've been using it inefficiently. We're offering to help you understand why bigger isn't always better, why showing strength isn't the same as having it. The display showed simulations of modified Skthera ships, their existing technology redesigned according to human principles of efficiency and practical physics. The crystalline vessels were smaller but far more capable, their quantum cores properly integrated instead of simply being made larger. In exchange for this knowledge, Cooper continued, we ask for partnership. Your species has much to teach us as well. Together, we could achieve things neither of our civilizations could manage alone. Vexthal studied the human officer carefully. You truly believe in cooperation over dominance. We believe in wisdom over power, Cooper replied. Look at your fleet, High Commander. You built bigger ships, more powerful weapons, stronger shields. We built smarter ships, more efficient weapons, and shields that worked with physics instead of against it. The result speaks for itself. She stood, extending her hand in the human gesture of peace. The galaxy is vast and often hostile. We would rather have allies who understand strength than enemies who worship power. After a long moment, Vexthal rose and attempted to mirror the gesture, his crystalline hand meeting hers. We accept your terms, he declared, and we thank you for teaching us the difference between power and strength. As the diplomatic proceedings continued, Cooper allowed herself a small smile. The true victory wasn't in defeating the Skthera, it was in showing them a better way forward. Sometimes, the greatest strength lay not in the ability to destroy, but in the wisdom to build something new from the ashes of conflict.